Everyone, this is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and you are listening to Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, right here on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio, 1420 Lubbock Christian Nation, and on the internet at 987radio.com. And if you want to use the app, you can listen to us on the Live 365 app, or you can go over to social media, look at Facebook, YouTube, and X, and you can catch us there. All you guys watching this on those platforms, welcome. Hope you guys had a fantastic day. Hope everything went your way. And it's Wednesday, November the 29th, coming to you tonight. So this is our book review night. We're going to get into the book here shortly. Tonight we're going to review the book, The Maker's Diet by Jordan Rubin. And I was trying to look this up right before because I was trying to think, when exactly did I first read this book? And it's been quite a while to see exactly when. I think it's 2004 is the copyright on the book, but it's one of those foundational books that gets you started, and it's got some really cool stuff in it, and I think you'll like it. I think you'll enjoy the show, and it'll be informational to you about some things, and I'll tell you a little bit about his story. Jordan Rubin had Crohn's disease, and it just about took his life, and it was a bad deal, and he turned the corner on it, and he went all over the world. So we'll get into the book here shortly, but I hope everybody had a great day. Last night's show was about internal stressors. If you missed that, you could go back and catch that show. And then Monday night we finished up the temptation series, working on how we deal with temptation, and got into those ideas. So hope those are going good. I get questions from some of our listeners that come into the office and get adjusted, and some of the comments. So I appreciate those. I appreciate the feedback, and I hope this is helping with you being healthier. So some of the things that went on in the office today, and some of the things that were praises. We've been at it all day long. We started at 7:30 this morning, and we were working our way through the entire day, and I had a couple of new patients, and the conversations. It's so funny to me because you guys have watched this show for a while or listened to this show for a while. You're like, this guy repeats himself a lot, and it's true. I really do. I repeat myself a lot because it's what I hear in practice every single day. It's the same stories over and over again, and the same misunderstandings of health, and the same ideas about what health is and what we're supposed to do about it, and how it works, and all those sort of things. And so had some really interesting, I don't know if interesting is the right word, had some profound sentences that were spoken today, and some ideas about from all the way from cysts on the kidneys to kidney transplants to rods and screws in their spine to young athletes to little bitty kids. Like they're just all through the day, just different ideas about what's going on with people's health. And it's so fun for me to get to do wellness chiropractic, and get to do wellness chiropractic with a functional neurology lens, and how your body is functioning, and what we're doing in the office. So it's just great. It's a fun job. It's a fun job to come on here, and what I get to do every single day, and have these conversations. And then when people get adjusted and they start getting better, and it's like, wow, man, that was great. Like that, I really am. I'm doing better, and I didn't really understand why. And so that was kind of what we talked about a little bit on the show last night. But that happens every day. You clean up your diet, you get your exercise, you get social, you go for a walk. And I had the guy that came in. We have an Ultra G treadmill here in the office, and it's an anti-gravity treadmill, and we use it for brain rehab and walking. Oh, I got to get a little video of my man Grant. He came in today. If you guys, I may have that somewhere on I think I do. If you go back on our Facebook page and look at videos at the Rock Health and Wellness Centers, and look at videos, there was one up there, and there's a whole bunch of them now because we got all these on here. But it was before September, and I think it was the coolest thing that happened in Lubbock today was what the caption was on the video, and it goes back, and it's a video of my little man Grant that we had to push him back there to that Altergy. Yep, it's on 7 months ago. Um, it says this is the coolest thing that happened in Lubbock today, and you can go back and find that, and if you want to see it, but you got to push Grant in a wheelchair to get him to the Altergy. Like he can't walk. He's hasn't been able to walk since he was a little guy. He doesn't have enough muscle tone. He's got some sort of issue with his brain. He really has a hard time with his eyes. He can't hardly get his eyes above the midline. Got lots of challenges, but he's one of the most inspiring little guys, and he has such a great heart, and he makes your day every time you get to see him. And so Grant came in today and got adjusted, and then the girls took him back and got him started on the Altergy. And while he was back there, I went back there to just check on him because I was wanting to see how that whole progress was going. And he was just, it was amazing. He was just walking along. I mean, he's just walking along. He was talking to Brooke, who was helping him on the machine, and we got a TV up on the wall above there so that you could get your eyes up while you're walking on the machine. And Grant he was having a conversation with Brooke, and he was trying to pick out what show he wanted to watch. She does a great job. She goes to YouTube and finds places all around the world, New Zealand or Turkey or Australia or whatever, Italy. And it's like these drone footage show, of all these places, and they're just beautiful places. And so it's really cool to get our eyes up while he's walking on the machine. And he's just walking along, taking steps, looked like a normal person, just with his gait. His feet were just hitting the ground, walking one after the other. And he wasn't even paying attention to his feet. He was just walking with his feet while he was talking to Brooke about what was up on the TV. And it was great. It was fantastic to watch him. So, hey, if you need a place to walk, we've got a place for you. If you have trouble with your balance, if you're older and you have trouble with your balance, if you're younger, if you're an athlete, you want to run on the treadmill and take some of the weight off your knees, if you're training for a marathon or something like that, you want to come, you could do that too. Or if we've got two patients right now who are both in wheelchairs that they get on the Altergy, and it's really fantastic. It's so cool to be able to use a tool that was really for rehab. And it's like underwater treadmill type stuff, right? That's what you do on an underwater treadmill is you do that same exact thing. It just takes the weight off of you so that you can walk. But we use it for brain. We don't use it for rehab because really rehab is brain rehab. No matter what you're doing, you've got a knee replacement. My mom had her knee replaced, and she comes up here 2, 3 times, 4 times a week, sometimes 5 times a week, and she walks on the treadmill. And that's part of what she does. And then she goes over into the gym and does some exercises with Brooke into the gym. And she went and saw her surgeon yesterday and got a great report on her knee, said her knee's doing good. And so she's doing knee replacement therapy at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. And we start with the brain. We're trying to get the brain to work. She gets adjusted first, then she goes back and she does the walking. And it's like, you got to start with the brain. If you're going to rehab your knee, you got to start with the brain. If you're going to rehab your shoulder, you got to start with your brain. It's actually why your knee and your shoulder probably wore out in the first place, because of the abnormal firing pattern that was going on in the brain. I guarantee you it was secondary to brain. Unless you had some sort of major injury, then those degenerative joints that you got going on, they're secondary to what's going on in your brain. So, but the guy that came, that sold us the sales rep for the Altergy, he was in town. They're actually putting one into the hospital here in Lubbock, and he was in town. And so he stopped by the office. He'd never been here before. We got mixed up on when we first got it installed. And so he lives in Dallas, and he came in and yesterday he kind of came in for a second. We gave him a tour of the office and we showed him the machine and all that stuff. And then we talked to him and he was like, I was talking to my best friend and my best friend was telling me, and this guy's a younger guy. He's probably, I don't know, maybe he looked like he's in his 30s, probably, maybe early 30s. And he was like, my best friend was telling me I should walking. That's what it's all about. If you got a fitness program and you're not walking, then you're missing the boat on that deal. And I was like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that they recognize at such a young age that walking is a vital part of your health. So it's a big deal. Those are just some of the things going on at the Rock today. So thought I'd share that with you. So let's get into the book. If you got any questions, just like always, you can call us, you can text us at 806-794-0400, 806-794-0400, or you can send us a message or a chat on any of the social media pages that we're live on right now. And I'll try to get all that stuff answered as soon as I can. So if you're going through the book, you have a comment or a question about it, then please feel free to let us know. So I believe this is a 2004 copyright, and it's the story and of Jordan Rubin, and it's he's an interesting guy. So he was born. Let me get this. He was born in a very holistic, wellness-oriented type of family. His father was a naturopathic physician and a chiropractor who made every effort to help his family live the healthiest lifestyle he advocated in his practice. So his dad probably taught him a whole lot of the same things that we talk about here on the show. His mother gave birth to him at home with the assistance of 4 naturopathic students from Portland, Oregon. They were in Portland, Oregon, and he was given this is his words, not my words, but he was given no potentially hazardous immunizations. We ate all the healthy foods known at this time. When one of my friends came to our house, he said that he wished he had visited the store on the corner first to get some food he recognized. He just wasn't sure about the rice milk, soy cheese, or tofu burgers. Like, these guys were for real, like naturopathic type of, what do they call them, crunchy these days, or granola or whatever, right? He also grew up with a good understanding of the Bible because of the devotion of his parents, who attended a Messianic Jewish people who believe that Jesus is the Messiah congregation outside of Atlanta, where his family moved after his second birthday. So he's born up in Portland and then moved to Atlanta. Throughout the childhood and in high school, he was rarely ill, and he took antibiotics less than 5 times. Since he had never been hospitalized, he had no idea what it was like to be in a hospital. He was happy, a good student, and very involved in his church in the ministries. So this is a very church-based kid that grew up in a very holistic type home, and it's at 17 he went to Florida State University in Tallahassee on an academic and athletic scholarship. His extracurricular activities included a spot on the FSU cheerleading squad, campus ministry, singing in a travel vocal group, and serving as chaplain of his fraternity. So he's super social. He's doesn't have many drugs in his body, and then all of a sudden, sickness hit him. All of a sudden, and I wanted to tell you that. I wanted to tell you that back end story first, because you gotta understand, he didn't grow up with McDonald's and eating a bunch of processed food and taking a bunch of medications and all that stuff. He was what was supposed to be the epitome of health and wellness as a young 20-year-old, right? But then it says shattered dreams. Disease can arrest your fondest dreams and place your life on hold. sometimes permanently. And that's what we talk about all the time, right? Disease can all of a sudden, you're just cruising along thinking everything is fabulous. And then the next minute, it's not fabulous. And then it's like, oh my gosh, what the heck, right? The first signs that my health was failing were periodic feelings of extreme exhaustion, which occurred during my stint as a summer camp counselor. I'd always enjoyed an abundant energy level, but actually fell asleep while riding the bus with some of my camp kids who kept calling, Jordan, wake up. It was embarrassing to say the least, and it soon became a regular occurrence. So the first thing that hit him was fatigue. You remember when we went back and we talked about the 5 stages of the stress response? We get the alarm, and then we try to adapt, and then we get fatigued, and then we get sick, and then we die. And those are the 5 stages of the stress response that we learned from Dr. Chestnut. And so we have an alarm, and then we try to adapt. And that's what last night's show was about. And the end of Monday night's show was about when we talked about physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress and our ability to try to adapt. And that's what, it's like, okay, we have an alarm. Something sets off in our body. Something gives us some sort of signal. And then we try to adapt. And if we cannot adapt to that environment that we've put ourselves in, the next thing is exhaustion. And that's interesting because that's what he said. My first signs that his health was failing was extreme exhaustion. Well, it hit him in a hurry. He wasn't able to, he had the alarm, but he didn't even recognize the alarm. And then his body tried to adapt to it, and his body could not adapt to it. And then he got these extreme exhaustion episodes. My energy never returned, and without warning, I faced an onslaught of other health problems. There we go, right? Now we can't adapt. None of our systems are adapting well. And then we get a whole bunch of other ones: nausea, stomach cramps, painful mouth sores, reoccurring diarrhea. Believing these were temporary symptoms, I committed to attending a week-long overnight camp 4 hours from home. Yeah. Most healthy people would consider it difficult to camp out in Florida's summer heat, and my unending nausea made it virtually impossible. So now he's like starting to get really sick. He's really it's this Crohn's disease. He didn't even know it was Crohn's at this time, but he says in the book, he said, I had an iron stomach until that time. When TV commercials played for digestive problems, I used to wonder what it felt like to have heartburn or diarrhea. Suddenly, I knew the feeling. These symptoms of extreme sickness and fatigue finally forced me to abruptly leave the camp. A friend had to drive me home because I was too sick to drive myself. So you just think about this young, healthy kid that stayed away from all that stuff, and then, man, he got it bad. And what he talked about when he talked about eating the camp chow, it wasn't helping. And he gulped down quarts of sugary iced tea and became well acquainted with the camp's primitive outdoor bathrooms, right? So what's he doing? He's feeding all those bad bacteria that's in his gut. He's feeding them sugar and eating all that processed food now. And it's really starting to take off on him. To spare my mom and dad concerned, I delivered an Academy Award performance to hide my illness. I didn't want them to block my return to college, scheduled for 10 days later. If I can just hang on until school starts, everything will be fine, I thought. I just need to get back into the swing of things. I visited a local family doctor and told him about my nausea, constant diarrhea, and weight loss, cottonmouth, and fatigue. He immediately tested for viruses, including AIDS. This test were all negative, which made sense considering I had never had a blood transfusion or been sexually active. Finally, the doctor prescribed antibiotics and sent me home. So now we're getting into the doubling up of the problem, right? So it's snowballing on him. Back at Florida State University, the severe gastrointestinal problems continued, although I took the antibiotics faithfully, tried to ignore what happened to my body, but the symptoms forced me to discontinue my extracurricular activities. I was still active in my local college and church ministry, but I quit the cheerleading squad and the fraternity, and I stopped studying for my American College of Sports Medicine exam. I dropped to 145 pounds from my normal 180 pounds and I felt as if I was falling apart. Each night I suffered a 104-degree fever and got little sleep between the endless trips to the bathroom. So it's not going well, right? So when I finally explored the nutritional collection my father had packed for me, I found acidophilus, aloe juice, digestive enzymes, fiber supplements, and many other herbal and nutritional products. I made myself believe those products would help me get well. And this is really good what Jordan's saying right here, right? There's so much stuff out there that that we can get told is going to help us. There's so many things that someone will say, well, you should just take this, or you just should take this, or you just take this, and that'll solve your problem, right? And he thought that was going to do that, but he calls it. He says, this is my introduction to what I like to call the hamster wheel of alternative medicine. Through the years of searching for ways to restore my health, I have come to believe that while alternative medicine and dietary treatments can sometimes be better alternatives to certain medications, most diets and supplements tend to overpromise and underdeliver. I agree with that. I agree that that can be the case. You got to know what it is that you're trying to get done with your supplements. If you're trying to treat that's the other thing. It's like treating with supplements is one of those ideas that I just I don't think it's wellness. I don't think treating is wellness, and um, that that is a problem that um, it's allopathic, right? Let's say there's a supplement that gets rid of allergies, and there's a medication that gets rid of allergies. So what are you going to do? If you have allergies, then you're going to take a supplement or a medication to treat your allergies. It's it's treating a symptom with some sort of um, substance, right? You're treating a symptom with substance, and that's still, in my opinion, allopathic. That's still that your the approach is the same, and that's what Jordan's saying right here. He's saying, some of these because it's not wellness, and he's going to get to wellness, and he's going to get to it from a biblical standpoint, and he's going to go right back to the Bible and start, and that was his way of getting out of this. And so, in spite of the natural supplements I was taking, my symptoms grew worse. I was continually hungry, right? Because he was treating something with a supplement instead of taking the supplement to give his body the nutrients that it needed. And so, if you don't know what nutrients that you need and you take the supplement, then you're leaving yourself vulnerable to not knowing for sure, right? So, I usually, food just seemed to go right through me. I usually stuck to my quote healthy diet until my friends who worked at a sorority kitchen would bring home leftovers. That sent the diet right out the window. I lived with 7 other guys, and we never missed an opportunity to give each other a hard time. We had a central message board used for jokes, harassing messages, and sometimes constructive, hilarious criticism for one another. One of my best friends wrote a message that accurately reflected my changing physical appearance. Hey, Jordan, Pee Wee Herman called. He wants his body back. That might sound cruel, but I laughed, determined to keep a good sense of humor. So it was just getting worse on him. He was falling apart. It was getting worse. He was not handling it well. And so he actually made a trip home. He actually made a trip home to see his dad. And, his dad being a naturopathic doctor and a chiropractor, he said, finally, I admitted to my parents how sick I was, and they arranged a flight home for me the next day. When I walked in, Dr. Dad took one look at me and strode into action. He took my temperature. It read 105 degrees. He put me into a bathtub packed with ice cubes. As I shivered in the ice water, confused and delirious, I didn't know what was happening, but I remember hearing my dad cry out, my God, I don't want to lose my son. I don't want my son to die. Man, that's a sickening feeling for a parent. That's a sickening feeling when it's your child. And some of you I know have gone through that, and that's horrible, right? And and can you imagine being that's what from a doctor's standpoint, when any of my patients pass away, it's a sickening feeling. I mean, it really is disappointing. It's I mean, disappointing is not the right word. It sucks. That's the right word. It sucks when your people die. It sucks when you invest into your life, into people, and you want your people to be well. And the ultimate thing is that every single one of your patients are going to die, and that just sucks. And so you invest into them, and to you want them to be able to live as healthy a life as possible for as long as possible. And and then when it all goes sour, you wish you could do something to help them out. And it that's why we spend that's why we spend so much time on this show talking about wellness, being well, doing well things. Be, because of the loss that happens when you lose your wellness, right? And then now his dad's all of a sudden faced with losing his son, and he's skin and bones. You should see the picture in his book. He's skin and bones, and it looks horrible. Anybody that's had Crohn's disease could kind of understand that. So we're going to take a break on the radio. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We'll be right back. Yeah, so he goes home and he sees his dad, and his dad just man, it's a bad deal. So he says the next morning I made my first ever visit to a hospital, hoping to receive a cure-all prescription so I could get back to school. Instead, the visit lasted 2 full weeks. Depression set in as I lay in bed with intravenous fluids and antibiotics going into each arm. It didn't help that the increased news coverage on TV was the federal building bombing in Oklahoma City. So now he's off his feet and he's in the hospital, and now he's feeding himself visions of the bombing on TV, and depression is kicking in. My body was so overridden by infection that inflammation had set in. Doctors prescribed two highly toxic intravenous steroid medications and put me through every test imaginable. I've received more x rays in 2 weeks than most people receive in a lifetime. The radiologist scanned my upper and lower gastrointestinal tracts as I felt they conducted the deluxe tours of my gut with full size TV camera. The results weren't encouraging. The doctors diagnosed Crohn's disease. Actually, it was Crohn's colitis, an abnormal inflammation of the small bowel and the colon that causes intestinal wall to thicken. As this disease progresses, eventually the bowel channels narrows and blocks the intestinal tract, robbing it of its ability to absorb nutrients. So he's been through his dad's recommendations. Now he's been through the medical doctor's recommendations and gone through the steroids and all the things that go along with it. Because you think, well, if I just, that you holistic guys are just full of crap. You holistic guys think you know all the answers to all the things, and you don't. You don't know all the answers to all the things. I need to go see a real doctor to get the answers to the things. Well, sometimes the real doctors don't have the answers to the things either. That's what Jordan's story is all about. He tried that. He went to the real doctors, and they didn't have an answer either. Though I was not familiar with my Crohn's disease, I soon learned that, according to the disease patterns, my future looked bleak. Crohn's victim experienced progressive symptoms of abdominal pain, diarrhea, extreme weight loss, and perhaps premature death. I was told that medications would keep me alive, but I quickly discovered that their side effects were nearly as bad as the disease itself. Scientists knew of no cause for cure for Crohn's disease at the time, and my prognosis was very poor. Dr. Beryl Crohn discovered Crohn's disease in the early 1900s. One of the most famous persons to be diagnosed with the disease was former President Dwight Eisenhower. No one knows for sure, but doctors estimate um, that between 400,000 and a million people suffer from Crohn's disease, with 20,000 or more new cases each year. At the writing At this writing, diagnosis of inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis have increased dramatically. Hang on, we're coming back. Okay, everybody, we're back on the show. This is Jason Clemmons, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. And you're on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio or 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. And this is our book review night. And we are breaking down The Maker's Diet by Jordan Rubin. So I'm going to just stick with it right here. So he had gone to the hospital. He goes home. He sees his dad. His dad tells him, man, we got to do something. They take him to the hospital. He's in the hospital for 2 weeks. He's running every test you could possibly imagine. And they tell him you got Crohn's disease and there's really not a whole lot for you. And it's like you're probably just going to keep getting worse until you die, and then that's just the way it's going to go. And so we really don't have a good answer for you at all. And so Crohn's disease was discovered by Burrell Crohn in the early 1900s. That's how it got its name. So Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis is the inflammatory bowel diseases have increased dramatically. So there's lots of it, and you guys may have it, right? You may have some sort of ulcerative colitis. You may have some sort of Crohn's disease. You may have some sort of problem. And here's where it gets even more interesting in his story, because now what he starts doing is he starts going all over the place. I mean, he's using everything he can possibly use. It says right here, the doctors also put me on Cipro, the drug of choice for nonspecific bacterial infections. I topped off this medical cocktail with regular doses of Zantac and for searing heartburn caused by the other medications. He was on antimicrobials. He had thrush. He was on prednisone. He was taking all these things, and it was just making him worse and worse and worse. And then he started traveling. He started trying to figure out. They went. I think he says in the book 30 different doctors that he went to. That and he got all kinds of different. By now, the whole system is starting to shut down, and it's like he's got yeast overgrowth, Crohn's, chronic candidus. I can't even name all these parasites that grow, a protozoan infection, incipient diabetes. He got poor circulation. His lower leg was turned purple. Got jaundice, insomnia, hair loss, heart functions, inflammation in his heart, eye inflammations. Oh, you can just imagine all this stuff. This was horrible. Elevated C-reactive proteins, anemia, chronic fatigue, arthritis, an abnormal increase in white blood cells, and his body was unable to absorb sufficient nutrients from his food. He was headed downhill. He was just about to die. And what he says in the book is how losing our health affects all those people around us. In between the chapters here, he has some different little inserts from his family members. In the little insert says family members suffer too. And that's something that we also need to consider when we lose our health. It's not just our health, it's not just us when we lose our health, but all the people around us have to be involved in that too. It changes everybody else's life too. So we really ought to try as hard as we can. It's really interesting. He just keeps going and keeps going. He just talks about all the things that he tried, that he was. He says, pinpointing the probable culprit. This is the chapter where he kind of gets down. He said, only God knows why I got sick, but I have isolated a few key contributions to the situation. As I mentioned, I was fortunate not to receive childhood vaccinations, which created inherent health risk. However, the local school district forced me to receive an MMR measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine at the age of 15 due to a supposed epidemic. This vaccine has now been implicated in digestive disorders, including Crohn's disease, and in developmental disorders such as autism. Although my symptoms didn't appear for nearly 4 years after the vaccination, there seems to be a causal relationship. Now, this is not a show about vaccines. This is a book review, and those were quoted from the book right there. Right. So this is his reason of thinking what went wrong. So the vaccine is now, yeah, it's been implicated in digestive disorders, including Crohn's disease, and in developmental disorders, autism. Although my symptoms didn't appear, yeah, okay. So the most probable culprit, however, I believe, was my changed diet and lifestyles in college. College life brought a whole new stress level to my existence as well. Much of it generated in my own overcommitment of time. And in my quest for athletic supremacy, I adopted a diet that was very high in carbohydrates, mostly from processed grains, dairy, and sugar, and dangerously low in fat and protein. The hard truth is that my college diet was tailor made for inducing the symptoms of most disease, especially digestive illnesses. So that's kind of interesting that he kind of points it out. Like he didn't get sick till he left home and got away from his holistic lifestyle, and then when he started with the first thing was the vaccine that he took, that he had never taken in his whole life, and then he got into started eating highly refined carbohydrate diets and got away from fats and proteins. So despite his disappointing experience with a specific carbohydrate diet, he still believed that it would help him if he stayed on it without deviation. So he tried it one more time. So he kept going through this, um, and he kept doing some of these things that we talk about here on the show. He led to personal consultation with some of the foremost practitioners and diet experts in the world. I must have tried almost every diet ever promoted in print. I was a patient at the late Dr. Robert Atkins, author of the Atkins diet. I also met with California-based eicosanoids guru Barry Sears. Remember, we talked about Barry Sears, author of the Zone Diet. Then I consulted with Jeffrey Bland, highly regarded functional medicine expert, and went through several rounds of detoxification and elimination. Nothing worked. He went to all these people and nothing worked. During our search for over 2 years, my father spent approximately $150,000 on natural health treatments for me, including 30 probiotics and countless enzymes, fiber, all the stuff. Like they did everything. They went to all the great people and they did all the stuff. And he nothing helped. Why did I put myself through such a difficult and expensive regimes? I wanted to get better and end the pain. Someone said my liver was the problem, so I decided to detoxify my liver. One health expert said had cured 250 patients with Crohn's disease in the United Kingdom, so I agreed to undergo cell therapy with injectable sheep cells taken from embryos. The needles were huge, but predictably, the results were non existent. I also tried retention enemas, colonics, and even more liver detoxification. I tried glandular and organ extracts taken from the dry tissue of every conceivable animal organ and gland. I even took adrenal cortical extract, or ACE, an extract from bovine adrenal glands. For nearly a year, I injected myself 7 times a day with injectable vitamins and minerals using a small needle and reserved for insulin injections. Got any cabbage juice or shark cartilage, he says. By this time, he's gone through it all. Like, he's really tired of this whole thing. And uh, through it all, I drew my strength from faith in God's love for me. I was difficult to live with and at times had my hope was dim, but God remained faithful. The psalmist David expressed my pain and received my hope during a daily reading from Psalms 31, where he breaks down that psalm. False data supplied by scientists for hire. As I grew more frantic, I tried almost 500 different miracle products, including 2 from 3 treatment no rational person would consider. My dad scoured health magazines and called colleagues around the world searching for clinics and therapies that might help. The many machines I hooked up to could not fill the science fiction novel. So he even got told that it was dermal screenings, the method of computerized information gathering based on physics and acupuncture meridians. After one doctor probed me with this machine, he said my illness was due to electromagnetic fields in my house. So I slept in a steel cage placed around my bed. At night, I was instructed to shut off the TV and clocks. When you get sick and you have no hope, you will try anything. You will turn to anybody and you will try anything when you finally lose hope and you're trying to save your life. That's kind of what I got from this book in the beginning. And so he even went to Germany, and it was, we got through that whole thing, and it was like, I mean, he wasn't even going to live. And I'll show you this picture, but that's a picture of him right there for you guys watching on YouTube. It was horrible. Like, he was just about to die, and he was down to the end of it. He weighed 111 pounds. In that, one doctor told me that my only hope was go to Mount Sinai Hospital in New York and get his procedure done. And he didn't believe it. He just said, "Man, I'm just gonna go at it in a different way." And so, he tried one last ray of hope. My father extended one last ray of hope after I wheeled out of the hospital in early 1996. He contacted an eccentric nutritionist and decided to personally investigate the man's program so that he would avoid getting my hopes up prematurely. The nutritionist said he believed I was ill because I was not eating the diet of the Bible. That's what the whole kicker is of the book. The man told him, "I think you're sick because you're not eating the diet of the Bible." He based the failure of the doctors who treated me on the fact that they did not base their treatments upon biblical principles. It's interesting. You know how we stand on that on this show, right? Um, I don't um, I haven't necessarily followed this diet exactly true, but because I have eaten pork, but there's no separation from that. I think that biblical principles are a big part of being a doctor and being someone who is able to help people be well. So it's cool that he found somebody like this. And if he would have found me, I wouldn't have helped him. I'd have been another guy on the list before I read the book. Now, if you come to me now and you got Crohn's disease, then I have something. That's why I read the books. That's why it gives me the opportunity to learn and to have some sort of background. That's why when you come to me and you got cancer, I'm going to give you Dr. Seyfried's book that it's a metabolic process, that cancer is a metabolic syndrome, right? That's why all these books are important to me, is because it gives me that opportunity to have some sort of depth. If you got Crohn's, you go into the Maker's diet. There's no question about it. And what's he going to say? He says he finally got this guy to tell him about it. So it made me curious, and I agreed to try his diet. After one day on the program, I smiled for what seemed to be the first time in nearly 2 years and said, "Mom, I'm going to get well." After one day of this program, he knew his innate intelligence inside his body, even though he was 111 pounds, even though he'd been wheeled out of the hospital in a wheelchair. After one day, he knew he was going to get well. I had decided to ditch the idea of surgery and give the Bible diet a try. What did I have to lose? Starting all over again, I stopped taking all nutritional products. Instead, I began to study the Bible and see what the people ate thousands of years ago. My study uncovered an interesting fact. The longest lived cultures in the world had few things in common. They consumed living foods that abound with nutrients, enzymes, and beneficial microorganisms. And they consumed healthy animal foods that were rich in nutrients. They avoided processed foods filled with empty calories that robbed nutrients from their body. Several weeks later, I flew to Southern California, still in my wheelchair, to live closer to the man who would teach me how to eat God's way. For the first time in my long battle, I saw some improvement in my health after integrating the nutritionist program with my own findings about nutrition and health from the Bible. That's the way Jordan Rubin healed himself, is he went there. He said, 10 months after I stopped taking all the supplements, My father decided to send me a plastic bag containing a black colored powder. Although he had promised not to send me any other nutritional products, he couldn't help himself. He said it was a special type of probiotic or friendly bacteria. Unfortunately, I had already tried 30 different varieties of probiotics with no success. How would this be any different? How could my father expect me to eat this? It looked like dirt. That's what I always tell my patients that come to me and they do have Crohn's disease, because I tell them you should eat some dirt. And that's where I got that from. It was right there. My biblical diet consisted of kefir, naturally fermented milk, from raw goats and cow's milk, organically raised, free range, or grass fed meats, and eggs, and meat from healthy chickens. It also included ocean caught wild fish and naturally sprouted or sourdough breads made from yeast free whole grains, as well as raw nuts and seeds, organic fruits and vegetables, raw sauerkraut, and carrots with other vegetable juices. These live foods were filled with beneficial enzymes, vitamins, minerals, and friendly microorganisms. My health didn't appear magically in one day. It takes time to overcome years of illness. I actually felt a little worse for the first 30 days as my body purged itself of toxins. That is kind of a tricky thing, because how do you know, right? How do you know you're getting better by eating a certain way if you start to feel worse? So that is kind of a tricky situation that you get in right there. My health The nausea increased slightly, my digestion got a little worse, and my energy levels dropped lower than usual. I was experiencing a Herxheimer reaction, or the die off effect that many people experience when they dramatically improve their diet and lifestyle. It's an allergic response to the toxic byproducts produced when the body's pH is changed for the better, causing large numbers of pathological organisms, such as harmful bacteria and yeast organisms, to die and exit the body. That's those are things when you do like a parasite cleanse or something like that. When all those parasites die off or all that bacteria dies off, then it does kind of make you feel bad, and because your body's trying to get rid of them. The collective effect of this reaction is temporary worsening of symptoms. In reality, is indicating that you're responding positively to treatment. Significant improvement should follow this initial detoxification reaction. Since the time of Hippocrates, it has been understood that the symptoms of most disease represent the efforts of the body to eliminate toxins. Gradually, for me, a newfound energy emerged, and I visited the bathroom less frequently. 1 month after I added the black powder to my diet, I noticed a marked improvement in my overall health. So that that next picture, so this is him in the next picture on the beach. And this is where he gets back. He wasn't all the way there. He said he weighed 170 pounds and felt like the happiest man in the world. So he took himself from 111 pounds and dying, literally dying from Crohn's disease, to restoring his health and bringing his health back. And the way that he did it was he went back and he followed a biblical eating plan, and he started eating the proper things that go along with that biblical eating plan. And um, he said, a couple chapters later, he said, I immediately told many of the doctors who treated me about my dramatic recovery, though the maker's diet, and the unique soil organisms named HSOs. I even mailed them before and after pictures, fully confident they would all be eager to learn about the regimen that had healed me. Some of them were excited, but most were skeptical. Dr. Morton Walker, a medical journalist who had supplied me information in some of the clinics I visited, asked if he could write an article outlining my amazing story. He published it in the Townsend Letter for Doctors and Patients, a prestigious health publication that focused on alternative medicine and treatments. The article generated over 2,000 phone calls from doctors and individuals who wanted to try the Maker's Diet. So overnight he was forced to distribute the HSOs and help me get well. That's the Garden of Life. So, which precipitated the birthing of Garden of Life, a healthy wellness company that supplies health, education, and manufactures innovative products. So that's what he did. He cured himself from Crohn's disease by eating properly, And then it by getting the word out to people, it forced him, after them learning about that, it forced him into the Garden of Life products. And the Garden of Life products is what really made the difference for him. And that's it's he goes on, and he wants to talk about, he just wants to talk about the all of the different things of health, the world's healthiest people. And it's not in the United States. The United States is not even close to the world's healthiest people, even though some of the more um, the more money you have, the better chance you have to be healthy. Let's put it that way. It's actually a statistic that is a true thing. But where he gets into the types of diseases and all the things that's going on. Let me get over here to this idea of the summary of the maker's diet. So the summary of the maker's diet is: the foods approved by God as recorded in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14 superseded the Genesis diet found in the first chapters of the Bible. God declared, "These are the animals which you may eat among all the animals that are on the earth." That's the Leviticus 11:2. Abraham, Moses, and Jacob and Jesus ate biblically clean meats. We aren't in the Garden of Eden, so we all need animal protein. The Bible is specific as to the type. And here's what's the type, in case you've never heard this. I know most of the people on this show have heard this, but um, the meat of an animal with a cloven or split hoof that also chew the cud can be eaten. This includes cows, goats, sheep, oxen, deer, buffalo, and so forth. Avoid animals such as the camel that chew the cud but do not have a cloven or split hoof. This includes, but is not limited to, horses, rats, skunks, dogs, cats, squirrels, and possums. Do not eat swine, pigs. They have divided hooves, but they do not chew the cud. These are unclean animals. In fact, pigs are so unclean that God warns us not to even touch the body, meat, or carcass of a pig. The Hebrew word used to describe unclean meats can be translated as foul, polluted, and putrid. The same terms were used to describe human waste and other disgusting substances. Eat any fish with fins and scales, but avoid fish or water creatures without them. Those to avoid include smooth-skinned species such as catfish or eel, and hard-shelled crustaceans such as crab, lobsters, or clams. Birds that live primarily on insects, grubs, or grains are considered clean, but avoid birds or fowl that eat flesh whenever caught live or carrion. They are unclean. See the extensive list in Leviticus. So this is the book. This is the book review night, and this is the book that talks about some of this. So it's an interesting concept. It's you would think, well, should we still follow this rule or should we not follow this rule? And I'll just present it for your consideration. Something that you can think of, something that you might think about, somewhere down the road, that, if my health is not where it's supposed to be, maybe I should go back and I should follow this exact type of diet. I should eat things that give me the nutrients that I need, and I should avoid the things that don't give me the nutrients I need or steal the nutrients I need. And that's the whole story behind the book. And maybe we can think of it. Maybe we could take his lessons about what he should do. And he says right here on refined and processed foods, God's dietary guidelines contain no refined or processed carbohydrates and only a very small amount of healthy sweeteners. The typical American diet is just the opposite. We stray from God's design with an array of techno foods rich in empty calories, filled with refined carbohydrates, and woefully inadequate nutrition. In contrast, the total natural maker's diet satisfies us with unprocessed foods, harvest directly from Creator's bounty. Countless healing miracles occur naturally as our bodies process to use the foods to great ease. Yeah, I do agree that we should eat the proper foods in order to stay healthy. So, hey, it's an older book. You guys may be super familiar with it. If you're not, it's a great book to read. It's called The Maker's Diet by Jordan Rubin. Then Jordan Rubin created the the Maker's the Garden of Life supplement line based on this whole series. Now you got to be careful because the Garden of Life supplement line finally sold out, and I think it actually is owned by like PepsiCo or something now. So it's not like it used to be. But there was a time that if you're interested, if you've got Crohn's disease and you want to get that solved, you've got bowel problems, you want to get that solved, this might be a super great book for you to learn from. So, hey, that's the end of the show. I hope you guys have had a great night. I hope you enjoyed the book. I think it's a great book to read. I hope you guys have an awesome day tomorrow. And I've got one of the questions, and I'm going to get as soon as this show's over, sir. I'm going to answer this question for you, and I'll get right back to you. So I hope you guys have a great night, and we will talk to you tomorrow.